I took a car for a test drive this week. Right? Yeah, so I don't know if any of you have actually seen my car recently, but it looks like it's got a toothache. The reason why it looks like it's got a toothache is because I parked around the corner. Someone's actually driven into the right side indicator. And when I came round, I was working here, and I drove, I went round the corner to see the car. At some point between 9 and 4 o'clock, someone has driven into my car and left lights and my bumper hanging off my car. Right? I know, I think it was a Methodist. I had to patch it together again. Now, normally I keep I keep duct tape, because I love duct tape. It's really helpful. Half of my car is held together with duct tape already. Literally, the guy who does my MOTs for me told me to put the duct tape in a certain area so it passed the MOT. It's a very strange situation, but that's actually what happened. So I didn't find any duct tape, and I was in Bovey, and it was getting dark, and I didn't know what to do. So I went up and down looking for anything I could find. Eventually, I just found lots of brown packing tape, and so the bumper is now wedged in a bit better, which is great, but literally the whole thing is kind of round around like you've got like a bandage around your head. So it looks horrid. It really does look absolutely horrible. So I thought I'm going to look for a new car. So I saw this. I was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace and I saw this lovely little car. I'm like, ooh, I've never gone for something like that before. That's a bit weird. Okay, well, it's a bit me though. It's one of those new fat minis, like the old minis, right? The old minis are brilliant. They're proper like classics. They look lovely. But this one's one of the overweight minis. The ones that have kind of come out since like the early 2000s and stuff like that. And I was like, I never really thought about it before. So I called the guy and I was like, can I come down and have a look? I said, okay, that's great. So I went down and had a look at it. It had done a few more miles than I thought the guy had advertised it as. So I was like, okay, but that was okay. It still looked really neat and tidy. And inside, I loved it. Got all like little switches and dials. It looked a little bit Star Trek-y. It had lots of like round bits on it. And I was like, that's really exciting. So I was like, okay, should we take it for a test drive? Okay, great. So I took it for a test drive and drove around. Where was I? I was in Paynton. So I drove around Paynton for a little bit, and I was kind of like, okay, this feels a bit weird, because there's several things that started making me think, this is a bit odd. And one of them was the rear view mirror, very important, so you can see things behind you. But it was a bit small, and it was a bit kind of round like that. My one, like in my car, I feel a little bit, I've had a couple of Nissans, my current car's a Nissan, feels like it's driving a glass box, really easy to see everything. All the mirrors are big and it's brilliant. This one, everything is circular and small. I'm thinking, okay, my visibility's not great, but getting used to it. Okay, driving along, yeah, it feels quite nice. It grunts quite nicely, quite like that, kind of, like that, just like that, yeah, right, just like that, yeah. I was okay, but for those of you who have any of you ever tried to drive anything? Okay, right, yeah, okay, great. So, so all the adults are like, I'm gonna go driving. There's something called a clutch, which helps you change gears and things like that. Now, the clutch on this was really, really heavy. And so, like, every time I was going for it to change gear, it felt like I had to put more effort into that one area than anything else. And I was like, I don't like that. Okay, that's a bit rubbish. And the visibility was all a bit. So as I was driving around, I was kind of like, can I put up with this? Can I put up with the heavy clutch? Can I put up with the lack of visibility? And also, it was 1,850 quid, right? Some of you are like, you have that much money to spend? Not really, but I need a new car, and it was a pretty car, and also looked a bit sci-fi inside. So as I was driving around, literally just before I turned the corner, because I was this close to getting it, right? This close, because I thought it'd be quite fun just to have like a bit of a snazzy car. But like my dad was with me. My dad's a mechanic, and he was saying, now this type of car, even though it looks small, would be more insurance because of the type of car of what it was, and it would actually end up costing me maybe more than my current car. So then I was like, in the end I went, no, I can't afford it, okay? But genuinely, I really, I was this close to getting the car, this close. But then I saw how much it was going to cost me, and I decided against it. I want to read you something from Luke 14. verses 25 to 33. It says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundations and not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't you first sit down and consider whether he is able to, with 10,000 men, to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. That's quite a heavy teaching. You know, sometimes we get a little bit too emotional, I think, like in the church, and we can go kind of go, you know, oh yeah, Jesus is great, yeah, Jesus. And yes, he is. But actually there is a cost to what he is asking. He said, now obviously Jesus, I'm not telling you now to go home and say, Tom said, Mum, Dad, I have to hate you because Bible, right? You can't, no, don't do that because I'm not telling you that. And actually Jesus isn't actually saying that either. What Jesus is encouraging you is saying that this is how much it costs. This is the difference. So say who has something that they really, really like, and then they have something else that they like, but it's kind of way, way far down. Has anyone experienced that? So like a TV show, you really like this TV show, and I sort of like this TV show, and actually, but there's no comparison between the two, because like it's almost like you hate that one compared to how much you like, how much you like that one. Make sense? Yeah? Some of you are kind of nodding, some of you are looking at me like I've just been sick down my front. Or maybe it's the same thing. Being a Christian, following after Jesus, is about looking at things other than Jesus as majorly lower second best. Yeah? So Jesus wants you to be obsessed with him. That's basically what I'm saying. Because Jesus knows how much he's worth. Isn't it a challenge, though, to hear this? Hang on a sec. Isn't it a challenge to hear this when Jesus is saying, those who don't give up everything cannot be my disciples? Right? That's Christianity. That is being a Christian. If you don't surrender everything, you cannot be my disciples. Sometimes we forget this is actually how important it is following Jesus. Right? As I say, if you've seen my car and I've been talking about it, you'll know that I really, really need a new one. Okay? I wasn't willing to pay the cost for the pretty little Mini. Okay? And unfortunately it was a bit pretty and maybe I would have been ridiculed. So I have to make do at the moment with the car that I've got. However, at some point, I will have to buy a new car. Okay? I will have to pay the cost of a new car. I'd rather choose to pay it from choice than being forced into it. Now, I am making a bigger point there, okay, for those of you, I think some of you have kind of cottoned on to where I'm going with that one now, okay? Now, that is a bit of a far off thing, okay? But I want you to kind of think about this thing about Jesus saying, you cannot be my disciple unless you give up everything, okay? What amazes me, right, is what we're talking about is choice. We're talking about making an active decision to give up. Now, I'm not now kind of saying that you have to go home and throw away all your stuff, but your stuff has to not be anywhere near as important as Jesus. Your relationships with anyone needs to be nowhere near as important as Jesus. Your time needs to be no more important than Jesus, okay? But this is what amazes me, is that Jesus made a choice too. Jesus looked at us and said he kind of weighed up whether we were worth saving or not. And Jesus made that choice. Yes, there is the conversation that Jesus had with the Father and said, if this cup, as in his sacrifice on the cross, if this can be taken away from me, I would like that to happen. Because if you were asked to be killed, you'd probably choose the no option, right? Yeah, I think it's quite, that's fair. But Jesus actually decided to say, actually, we are worth his death. He was willing to pay the cost. He looked at how much it was going to cost him and he still chose it. To me, that's madness. And that was also we could have a right relationship with God. But look at what that right relationship is. Giving up everything that we have. Hopefully, at some point, I will get a new car. And it won't have a smashed-in headlight. Yeah, a brum brum car. Yes, well done, yes. Hopefully, I say, I will have a car where the windscreen does eventually demist, where the squirter on the back windscreen works, where all the electric windows go down. That would be really nice. These are all things that basically I've had since I've had the car as well, right? But it's not important. I can just tell, right? But Jesus wants us to realize the cost, okay? And sometimes that gets lost with like fun stuff and camps and games and cool Bible studies. But when it comes down to it, it's quite serious because Jesus died. Jesus actually died to take away your sin so you could have a right relationship with the Father.